Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to load a data in SSIS directly to SQL Server. Then you might be wondering, why do we have to load in a data in SQL Server through SSIS? This is easier to load. It's easier to load in a data into like SQL Server directly from SQL Server Management Studio itself if it's just like one single data. You're doing this one time, and I'm going to show you how to do this from SQL Server itself, like that SSMS. Then we're going to show you how to do it using SSIS. Then we can try to compare the use case and the difference so you can have better context. So now the first thing is, let's make sure you have SQL Server already. And in case you want to load in Adventure Work it's a database that is very rich for like learning different data projects. So you could check it out, my previous videos on how to install Adventure Works. But imagine that I do have this data, right? I have this data here called, let's say, my data 2. I have it called first name, last name, and gender. And maybe you were watching a video and you found like the data online, then you wanted to practice or whatever you're doing, then you want to do some pre-processing in SQL. So how do you load in that data? So one is loaded directly with SSMS. So first few things is, let me assume I want to use this database called YouTube. I just click on the database and I right click, then I click on tags. Then after I click on tags, I click on import flat file. So I just try to go to the next, make sure I pick the location, and I go to where the data is. So this is my data 2, and it says text file and all. So I open it and I give it a name, the schema, choose everything. Because I'm opening it currently, so I have to close it. That's one of the challenges, right? So like I need to open up my SSMS again. So we see, so I had to close that up. So make sure that you always are connected. Yours might be a little bit different because maybe you might be using a previous year of SSMS. So I remember the use case. Imagine I want to load in the data. And because I want to practice, I just click on tags, click on import flat file. If it's a CSV file, if it's not a CSV file, you can't use import flat file. It's either you traditionally change the file to a CSV format, or you use like a different approach. So I still give it the same name. It says my data is still in use. I didn't close this properly. I'm just gonna say save and click on next. And this says should be successful. I'm just going to click on allow now, whatever. This is just so, and that's that. Say successful. Then if I try to click on this, one of the things you want to do is you might just want to refresh. But my data DB2 is here. So top 1000. So that's not what I wanted to do. I right click, select top 1000. But yeah, this works, but imagine I have to do this every time, or this is like a lot of data. Like nobody has the time to keep automating, and that's what the process of the concept of SSIS comes in place. So what we just did right now, I want to do the same thing using SSIS so that you're going to see how the process will be automated. First few things is I want to open up Visual Studio. Remember that you always have to open up Visual Studio for you to run in SSIS, and at this point you should have also installed SSIS on your device. One of the ways for you to know is to click on extension, manage extension, and click on installed. You could just see so SSIS. You should pop up. If it's not showing, it might take a minute for it to come up, but you could just click on the browse and click on SSIS. You will say it's showing installed already, and that's all that you need. So I have that already installed. The first few things is I want to be able to open up SSIS now. I click on file. This is click on new, open a project. When I open up a project, because I have all of this initially, you might not have this here, so you just search SSIS. Then I click on the first one, and I click on next. Most of the time the location is going to be different, so make sure you choose the right location that you want for the project to be saved. I'm just going to call this my first package. I'm just going to call this my first package, and you don't need to do anything from here. Just click on create. That's the first few things. So remember, Solution Explorer, you need to have this and take this away. One of the few things we need to do is I need to load in a particular data. So I need to load in this particular data. I want to load in this data. I want to load it directly into my server here. So one thing, let's get right into it, is that I know there are going to be various people watching this video. So one thing I would understand is, imagine you don't have an existing database and you don't probably want to use any of this database. So I could create a new database called, and this is very optional, I could create this called learning. And you can call this any name you want to call this learning. Just the same thing you want to do. So see right here that I don't have any table in this learning data. So what I need to do is few things. Is I click on new query and take this away. So I want to create a table like structure in SSMS right here, such that when I load in this data that I want to load in, there's going to be a format. So most of the time in SSMS in itself, I know there's so many terms and sometimes it could be confusing. That's SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. You need to have like a form of a container. So just like you want to pour water into like something, you need like a container to pour in the water. So all of these data points, this is like the water, but like the container itself is the table in itself in SSMS. So we don't have any table yet. So what are the things I want to do is I want to create a table. I want to create a table that looks exactly like this. So this is just a random data. So this is first name, last name, gender. You can put in anything, but let's just stick with text data for now so that we don't run into any error and you'll be able to load in your first package successfully easily. The first few thing is we go to SSMS and I want to create a container, a table. So let me just, I have an existing query for that. So it's going to be right here. So remember, whatever you're using, so I have this called first name, last name, and gender, and that's all I just wanted to use. I created this in Excel myself, so you could use anything. So first name, last name, and this is just trying to say this is a envarch variable character 255 length. It depends on whatever I could put any length for this. And one of the things you want to do is whatever database you want to use, you could just type in use learning. So another thing, if you don't want to use that, is you can just change it here. So I'm already using learning and I want to create a database, a table called my table. So this should run successfully. To be sure that I have this table, I can do select all from my table. Remember to use this DBO. That's like the default schema when you create a new table. So right now I don't have anything in this table. So one thing I could also be sure is if I click on this, if you're not seeing anything, just make sure you click on refresh. Right click and refresh. And I have this already. It's taking a minute. So I have this my table. So which is just literally says first name, last name, gender. Another thing also you might want to notice is that if I use name, you see that this name is still blue. So there are some words that are for SQL that you don't want to use when you're naming a variable, because if you do that, you might run into error. For example, you do something like key, you would run into error. Even though you don't run into error in creating the table, you might run into error in the future. So, and if you run this twice, even though I do first name, it's going to tell me that I have a table already called this. So there's already an object called my table in the database. So you just make sure you're running this one time, and in case you make any mistake, let's say you created this table and you're like, oh, maybe I did some typo error, you could just come here, just click on delete the table. So you could do that just in case you make any mistake and run your query again to create my table instead of trying to alter, which might be a longer process. So we have the container already, and this is the this is the data that I want to load into SQL Server Management Studio. So to be able to automate this process, so one of the things you need to do is I go to SSIS, which I have opened up. So the control flow tab is, you won't see so much of a stuff in it, but whatever tab you are, so but I just want to choose this first tab. The first thing I want to do is I want to be able to connect SSIS to the flat file, that's the CSV file. And that thing also you want to ensure is that this file, so I'm just going to save this again, save this as, make sure it's saved as my, I'm just going to call this my full data. Make sure it's saved as a CSV file. Let's save it as a CSV file, so because that's one of the possible errors you could run into. So save this file, we don't need to close this. So we create a connection to my flat file, like this flat file that I have on my laptop. I want to create a connection to this SSIS. So I create a new flat file connection, and I just want to change the name here. I could call this load CSV file, or I could maybe whatever data, maybe demographic demo data. So that's the data, right? And where is the demo data located? I just need to locate it. So I have this right on this folder. I have it in great data sets. You might not see anything, don't panic, you just have to change the format to CSV file. And this is my full data that I wanted to use. I click on open, I have this. So don't rush to click OK. Come to the columns and see that everything looks good, and click on advanced, so that you don't run into error. One of the things you want to do is change this data type to Unicode DT_string. So try to look for Unicode DT_string. So this is, so just to be sure that we are picking the right one, so make sure you pick the Unicode DT_string. So this is what we pick. The second one, we also pick the name, so that's Unicode string. So gender also, you don't have to, but let's just pick Unicode DT string. Don't need to click suggest type, because if you click suggest type, it would undo whatever we have here. You'd have to do that again and you might run into error. So just click on OK. So that's the data connection. The next thing is I then want to connect this SSIS to, I wanted to connect it now to my SQL Server Management Studio. So the next thing I do is to create a connection. So remember that the database I'm using is this learning database. So yours could be a Benchbox, yours could be any database that you want to use. Just remember this name is called learning. Then I come here, I click on new. Now I want to create a new OLEDB connection. So I want to create a connection to my SQL Server. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to click on new, and you might see all of these, but which is okay. Just click on OK. And this is where it could get tricky. Make sure you don't just click on this default. So next thing you want to do is you want to click on Microsoft OLEDB provider for SQL Server. Click on that. Make sure you click on this, very important. If you run into error, try to maybe change a bunch of them to be able to get what the solution is. Remember that it's asking for my server name, so my server name is going to be right what I have here. So just in case you want to copy, just click on database ng, copy this, and that's going to be my server name. And when I click on this server name, so I go back here and I put up this, and so the database name is going to just show me options. You could take a minute. Another thing is you could just type whatever the database name is. The next thing is you want to test connection. It's very important that you test connection, because if your connection is not successful, you might not be able to go from it. So just the same, either you type this or you click on the drop down, but it's best, sometimes it takes a minute, so just click on learning and test connection. So it says test connection successful, and that's all I wanted. Just click on OK. Remember to choose the right database that you saved the table you created, the container we created. So that's that. Just click on OK. And this connection is a little bit long, so I can just click rename, then give it a name, or just just double click on this, or just click on cancel. Literally it's so it's a edit, so it's called rename. So I could just call this learning DB. So that's the connection, that's the database that I want to, that's why I call it learning DB. Now the control flow is like I talked about the control flow and the data flow in the previous video intently. So let's just, so the first thing is you want to click on the data flow tag. So data flow tags is, now this is, I want to perform a job. Now I want to create a package. Then we need to explain what the package is so that you can become more intuitive. So we just can rename this. So I double click that, it took me that, but like we'll just come back to this control flow and I click on this. So I want to call this load demo data. So you don't want something too long, so then you click on this. In case it doesn't work, maybe you are like, oh, how did I do? You can just double right click and click on edit, or the next thing you could do, just come and click on data flow. So since you are in data flow, I'm just going to drag this down. So this is a package I'm creating now. What does this package, what should you do? So first few thing is that I want to pull a data from a source, which is my CSV file that I have on my laptop. And this source, if you notice this category here, is called other sources. What are the source that I want to use? The source is a flat file source, not a CSV, not an Excel file. So a CSV file is categorized as a flat file source. So I drag this flat file source right here, and that's the flat file source. Then I rename this to the demo data on PC. I can just maybe call this that. You call it any name. So call it demo data on PCs. You notice that it's a connection manager has not been assigned demo data on PCs. So you could double click, and if you don't, maybe you can just click on edit. You have the same. So demo data on PC. Now it wants me to, like, is asking me now, okay, this demo data on PC package that you're creating, where is this data? Remember that I created the connection already earlier, this connection already. So it's this is connected like to where the data is. So you're like, if I have so many data that I want to load, it's going to show me so many options. But just because I have this one, I just have to show me the demo data. It automatically understands the demo data. So you will create a new one, but that is fine. Don't just click on OK, then click on columns. When you click on columns, you see that everything looks good. The output, you could rename this from here, our output. Nothing is we want to do from there. And we just click on OK. We have that. Then this is the source, right? Then the next thing is, where is this data going to go? This data is going to my SQL Server itself. Remember that right here, I don't have anything. This data is empty, and I want to load in that data that I have on my PC. So a few things I need to do is this. What is the destination? The destination is the OLEDB destination. So you have this, the OLEDB destination. So I could rename this to, just want to rename this. So it says, do you want to continue? Just, I want to edit the name. This is the name. So OLEDB. So I'll call this learning destination. So try to use like different names so that it doesn't look confusing for a learning destination. Now I need to set up a connection. So you can either left click, make sure you, sometimes when you click the wrong thing, you don't click it rightly. So edit component, as in, do you want to continue edit this component? So I want to edit whatever. If it doesn't bring that, but normally you're just supposed to double click. So we have that. So you already, as we have more database, it's going to give me option. I pick this database that I want, the learning DB. This is just asking if I want fast up, load, download, but yes, fast and view, fast load. Now, then I need to choose the table that I have here. Whatever you call this table that I have here, that you're going to choose. So I need to choose that table. That, okay, now this data that is coming, I want it to go into directly into this table. Now, sometimes it's going to take a minute for this to pop up, so you have to probably wait for it. Then you click on mapping. Mapping is, it wants to know if where this is literally going to go to. The warning that we had gotten the other time was because, so let's try to take this away so that we can try to understand a little bit. So I already created this already. This OLEDB connection, this is my source. I drag it back again, and this is my edits, which is, before you click on that, the reason why it's bringing this is it wants me to create a relationship between these two. It's saying these two things are separate, so I need to drag this blue arrow. I need to drag it to come right here. So remember to drag correctly, drag this blue arrow. Just drag the blue arrow. So what this is saying is that from this data source, from the flat file data source, I want you to put it into this SQL Server that I created here, which I'm about to create, which is what we were doing earlier. So I'm just going to rename this to a learning DB destination. So now then I have to change the connection. That's edit and put the connection. Remember, the table is this my table. When I come to mapping, automatically it sort of understand like, oh, this is the way it's coming, first name, and it might not do everything like this. So in case some of them, because if they don't have the same name, it's not going to do the mapping correctly. So you just have to click here and maybe do the drop down to do it rightly. You can't drop down this one, so just make sure you do the drop down right, and that's all that you need. You click on OK, and that's it. So you X out of that. It says okay, now the package is done. So then let's start the package to see if that's going to work. So we start it, and we'll see that in a minute it's going to be executed. And when that's executed, when we go to our SQL, we would see that we actually do have the data. So that's something that's right now. It says it's X is done, 3 rows. Let's go to SQL and we see, and if you're loading this, we see I have my data. So one of the things you can do, there's so many things you could do with this. You could load this to to do this at a particular time that you want. And that's why, in case you're working on a project, you don't always have to keep waiting for the data administrator to load in your data for you. In case this video was a value for time, do to subscribe, like, and follow. Ciao.